Hi, I'm Casey and I'm a pencil artist. In this video, I'd like to show you what kind of material I use for my pencil drawings. At the moment I'm working on that big fellow over there, a really big 48 by 52 inch giraffe drawing, and these are also the materials I use for that drawing, and also for the elephant drawing there, which I have already finished. So starting with the pencils, in the past I always used graphite pencils, but I'm not using just graphite pencils anymore, because when you only use graphite, you don't get it all that dark, because it always, when you make it too dark, it always creates a shine. And with drawings, when you really want to create that depth of blackness and darkness, then you need charcoal. And so I have pencils which are a blend of charcoal and graphite. They're from the brand Staedtler. I really love Staedtler. So for these drawings I use 8B and 4B of the blend of charcoal and graphite. Then for the parts that have to be like super black, like the darkest parts, like the eyes for example, I use charcoal. I have about a medium soft charcoal, and I have a charcoal that's even softer, that creates even more depth and darkness. The downside of just charcoal though is it's very soft and not very manageable, I find. So at first I always keep the tip very sharp, which is, it doesn't last long since it's so soft, so I have to keep sharpening it. And for the tinier details, I just touch it up with the pencils that are the blend of charcoal and graphite, because you can just like create smaller details with it. But for like really bigger parts, like the eyes, really darker, bigger parts, then charcoal is the best, I find. Then sharpening my pencils has always been a battle. I think it's a battle of many artists out there. Regular pencil sharpeners. I used to buy these so often, and then I had to replace them really often because of it would just go blunt really fast, because I keep my pencils very sharp, so the knife would go blunt so fast. So I don't really use these anymore at all. I never buy them anymore, and I don't use them anymore. I tried this pencil sharpener, but it works with pencils that are a bit harder. It's like graphite pencils, or the harder, these harder pencils that are like the blend of charcoal and graphite. But if you use softer pencils, this thing will just demolish them. It just breaks off. So that doesn't work. So to keep them sharp, I just use this blade knife, whatever it's called. I just cut it off like that, very carefully, of course, especially if you work with charcoal, because it just breaks so easily. So I tend to not do too much, not make it too sharp, but just like there's a lot of charcoal above the wood of the pencil, and then I tip it off with sandpaper. I just make the tip super sharp with the sandpaper. So that's what I've been using always lately. A fine sandpaper, because if you do it too rough, then it also breaks the points. So just a nice fine sandpaper. Then for erasing, I hardly ever erase. I don't like erasing. You will always, with an eraser, damage the paper or cause smudges that you don't want. And especially if you work very dark, then if I want to erase something that's that dark, like super black, this it will never get back to white. You will always see something. So I tend to avoid erasing at all costs, especially if you work with colored pencils. Even more difficult because colored pencils have a wax to it, and yeah, it just doesn't work. So what do I do? This is a kneadable. Is that the correct pronunciation? Kneadable, I think so. Kneadable eraser. I really like them to just like, if you make certain parts just slightly too dark, you can just like blot it a little bit like that, and to make it less dark. And also you can make like different shape, like a sharp point, so you can create like highlights, details that need to be highlighted. So I always keep this around. I always have a regular eraser as well, but I never use it. I only use it when I absolutely made a huge mistake and oh my god, I just have to like erase it all. But avoid it at all costs, I'd say. Then something I also started with doing recently, because I've never been much into smudging and blending and using my fingers to like smudge or anything. I did start to do it with the big one. I noticed with bigger works that it can save you time by just smudging it instead of like coloring everything. But it's also really good to just soften out certain details. So I have these blending sticks, stumps, whatever they're called, I don't know. And I use them for to just make the lines a bit smooth, especially if you do it with charcoal. Then it seems to be, it ends up pretty rough. So you can smoothen it out by just touch-ups here and there and just blending it a bit, and so that you also have like a soft edge around yeah, a line that's like super thick and dark. I think we've about covered it. Well, yeah, the paper, of course, I use paper for my drawings. I actually use different kind of paper. I can't even give you a certain name of brand that I always use. I'm still like kind of finding, okay, this is what I can find in this size, and I find the tooth that it has a kind of a rough tooth, but also not too rough, because the rougher it's difficult to draw tiny details when it's too rough, the paper. So it's somewhere in between. You don't want to have a paper that's too smooth that you can't make it dark enough that it doesn't hold any pencils. It's always something in between. Like sometimes I use Canson or Strathmore, brands like that, and it's always something different. Actually, I still have to find my kind of paper that I really love to use. Especially because I just started making these large scale drawings. You can't get it in every brand, so it's still a bit of this one that I'm using the making the giraffe on is Stonehenge. I really like the paper. It feels like a bit it's a bit of a cotton blend, I believe. It's a really good kind of paper. It has a nice tooth to it and it's not too rough. So I think I've about covered everything about what I'm using. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you with my next videos again. Bye.